Hey everybody, it's Mike with Jealous Lawn Care here, and today we're going to talk about curb appeal. And specifically, we're going to talk about re-blacktopping your driveway. Alright, we're going to do resealing, recoating, and we're going to fill in some cracks. So as you can see here, I have some cracks in my driveway, as everybody's going to have them after years and salt and snow and all that mixture, that extreme heat, extreme cold, all that plays a factor of making cracks. And what we're going to use to fill that is this, I like this Henry driveway elastomeric crack filler. Quick little zoom in picture of that. That's what I'm like to use. And basically, first step we're going to do is you're going to basically power wash the whole thing, or better yet, if you have some kind of solution, some kind of light solution, kind of like eco green, some type of green solution. You can use simple green, that's great for it. Basically, you just want to strip off any dust or debris that you have on the driveway currently. So I've got my shop vac already, and basically you want to get in these cracks. You want to get a screwdriver and basically you're just going to pry up anything that's loose, any of this loose debris, and then you're going to go over it with the shop vac. Alright, so let's do a quick little example here. So little bits of asphalt are coming up as I do this. Essentially, when you're digging your screwdriver in, you're probably going to make this crack a little bit bigger, but that's why we have the crack filler. So you will definitely need it. Very important stuff to use, because if you don't use the crack filler, then what you're going to see is you're going to see those cracks even after you reseal and recoat the blacktop. Alright, because the reseal or recoat only does it only fills in little cracks, like I would say maybe 1/8 of an inch. Basically, if it's bigger than 1/8 of an inch, you're still going to see those same cracks when you go over it. So definitely make sure you fill those in, raise them up if anything, make sure it's level on top, and we'll go through that in a little bit. So as you can see, here's the blacktop that I'm going to be going over. So I'm going to be filling a lot of these cracks. You can see these cracks here, not too deep, not too bad. And it's also a very good spot, very good time to do this. Obviously, in between my sidewalk and my driveway, I'm sure a lot of you have the same problem where, all the grass is going to be stuck down here, a lot of loose debris, a lot of weeds that come up, grass that comes up. Grass comes up everywhere, right? Except where you want it, of course. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to dig up all this stuff. So this is what I was talking about the space between the driveway and the sidewalk. We all have this little space here because you're supposed to allow some space to allow room for expansion of concrete and stuff. So basically what you want to do is, I don't like seeing, this is what I've already done so far. I've already removed all the debris and stuff. Here's obviously where I stopped. So this is what you want. This is the goal. You want it like this. And then eventually, once all the stuff comes out, all this dirt and stuff like that, where weeds can grow, I'm going to replace it with sand, up to, just below the height of the asphalt. And then once I do that, the benefit of that will be, hey, no more weeds, no more grass coming up. And then if you want to use a little crack filler, that's fine too. Obviously you don't want to, do what this guy did. And, it doesn't look clean on the sidewalk, of course. All I'm doing is basically digging a hole down through here, like a little canyon. Dig up all the dirt and stuff, because the dirt is what makes the weeds and the grass grow. Once I layer this in with sand, the sand will prevent the weeds and everything from growing, so it'll be less maintenance in the future, and it'll also look better. So this is a pretty big crack here, and this is the one I'm going to fill with some sand. So I'm just going to go along, fill it up with sand up until just below the surface. So maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch below the surface is where I want the ground to be at, and this will just fill it in so I don't have to use as much filler, because sand is definitely a lot more cheaper than the filler stuff. Alright, and that's basically how you do it. Now I'll go over it with some filler and this will be all good. Here's the end of my driveway, and you could tell that the city or the association went through and they had piping problems over here, so they dug underneath the ground and repaired the asphalt driveway, or a slice of it I should say, in my driveway, because technically anything after the sidewalk is technically, they can do whatever they want apparently. So they made a nice clean cut, but unfortunately, you know, there's still a gap because of the two different asphalts. So this is what I did, was I put a layer of sand in there, and then after I'm done, hopefully you shouldn't even be able to see this crack in this different asphalt. So one of the things after I filled it with sand here that I like to do to make it even cleaner is I take the blower there and then I blow it all out. So I don't obviously point like right, I obviously don't point like right at it, but you know, I'm pointing in the general area. This way any of the overflow, you know, that would be normally like on both sides or something like that, because you know, it's hard to get in this crack perfectly. That's what it'll blow it all away. So, and it'll just leave it down into the crack, and this is ideally what you want. So one of the things I would like to mention real quick is that, you know, every year you see those people that come by and they offer to seal coat your driveway for like 50 bucks or 100 bucks, usually around 50 I'd say. That's what I've seen. Depends on, of course, the size of your driveway, but so the thing about those is they're obviously using a lower quality seal coater, and the problem with that is that yes, it's good for a year, but it's really not going to last much longer than a year. So they're expecting you to do that every year after year after year. So the stuff that I'm using is supposed to have a 10-year, it's got a 10-year warranty on it. So this is supposed to last real long. So you can see right there, 10-year warranty. So I'm not expecting any problems in this. You know, it's supposed to be a nice thicker coat and it's supposed to look great. So just wanted to mention that. And one of the things I also do not do for that 50 bucks is they don't fix cracks. All they do is go over it with the sheet of seal coater. So I just wanted to mention that for everybody real quick. Stuff like this, these very small cracks, see like this crack that goes along here, this is very minor. This will come out with pretty much any seal coater. But when you're talking about, you know, little deeper ones like this, you can definitely tell that this is a little bit thicker, and this will usually not be covered up. So this is where I recommend the filler. So one thing I do want to mention is that in the very beginning you want to cut a bigger hole than you need to. And the reason being, you know, I know this is the opposite of what everybody tells you, you know, for like caulk or things like this, but the reason is because there's tiny little particles in here, you know, that make it so good, kind of like grittiness. And what you want is a little bit bigger hole, because if you start with a smaller hole and try and work your way up, I mean, you're going to have little bits and they're going to be stuck, and it's not going to be able to, you know, shoot out like it's supposed to. So then what you're going to have to do is, what I've done in the past is just unscrew the top and just basically pour it out, which does work, but then you're wasting a lot of solution. So ideally you cut a little bit bigger hole and it should come out just as easy like this, and just fill along the cracks. And you want it to be higher than the ground level, because then you're going to smooth it out with your putty knife or whatever you're using. So just like this, it's raised above, you're going to smooth it all out so it's flat with the rest of the ground. It'll expand a little bit, so that'll be nice. So this is really all you're doing. It should be just this easy, and you may have to do one or two coats depending on the size of your cracks. As you can tell, I've already done one coat, but this is my second coat on these bigger cracks. It's been a while since I've done this, to be honest. Alright, so just a quick update. It's been 7 days. I let my first coat of crack filler sit, and now you can tell that it's helped so far, but I'm going to have to do another coat. So what I'm doing is another coat, because it's some really deep cracks that need the 2 coats maybe even 3 coats, depending on how much sand you use the first time, and also how much filler you use. It seeps into the crack before, and then it expands. But just use your best judgment and see if you need another coat or not. Every crack's going to be different. All right, so now we've filled all of our cracks that we need to with the crack filler. Now what we're going to do is, last step is the seal coating. So depending on how many coats you need will be dependent on how the condition of your asphalt currently is. So first step, you want to avoid this. This was done in the past. See, you could tell that this person used a roller in the past and hit, just like when you just like when you're doing a house, you don't want to use a roller and go all the way up to the end. When you're painting the ceiling or something like that, you always want to use a brush on the edges. So you want to brush on the edges, use whatever size brush you want, and brush the edges so that the roller can just have an easier time with the roller. All right, and for this seal coat, what you want to do before you use it is, like a day or so before you use it, tip these upside down. So leave them upside down. I've got four buckets for my use. It's always better to have a little bit more than you need to, than a little bit less. And so once you tip them over, all that sediment and stuff, it'll basically mix together. All that stuff that's stuck on the bottom, it'll kind of mix itself a little bit and become loose. And then you want to stir it, use a paint stirrer or whatever you want to stir it with for a good 5 minutes. Don't skimp on that. Make it for a good 5 minutes. And the one complaint you will get about this Rust-Oleum brand is that I'm using is that if you look inside, it's only about half full, and this is brand new. So what they recommend, so I think they put it half full like this and just use a bigger container because it's easier to stir and you don't have stir splattering everywhere. So it's kind of nice, even though you look inside and you feel like you got screwed. So when you're getting down, so I would say once you use so this is a 2-gallon bucket, I believe. So once you get down, halfway down or so, then what you want to do is pour in the next bucket, pour in half of the next bucket inside of here, because then you'll have a uniform texture and color. All right, so a very important step. You don't want, because all the buckets are not created equal, so this way you're basically mixing it. So mix your buckets ahead of time, and then put in the bucket after you've got about halfway left. All right, and roll it on. One more thing I do want to mention real quick is the temperature. So I'm in the Midwest. Most people usually do their blacktop right around end of June, July-ish. I'm doing it in August. Doesn't really matter as far as temperature-wise. It's still summer, and as long as the temperature doesn't drop below 50 Fahrenheit overnight, you want usually follow the instructions on your box or bottle, and just make sure you follow that. But general guidelines is you don't want to drop below 50, while it's curing. And especially for the patch that I'm using, the patch stuff for the cracks. So this is gonna, once I put this down, it doesn't want any rain for 24 hours. And it's gonna take even longer. So it's gonna take 7 days before you're supposed to put the sealer on. So that'll be an update for next week. All right, now we're gonna roll it on. You want to do overlapping strokes when you're rolling it on. So one quick thing I want to mention is that right on the instructions it says to use a paint roller. Do not use the squeegee or the brush people call it. So even though it says use a paint roller, I would still not recommending using a normal paint rolling tray like you would with the inside of your house you're painting. I would still recommend doing it this way and just pouring a little bit out and then just going along. So this is the way I'd recommend doing it. This way you get a lot more coating, just like you would kind of like doing the squeegee way. So you get a lot thicker coating all at once. And that'll cover up a lot more of the imperfections or the stones from underneath also. So to do it a lot thicker. If you use the paint tray, you would not be able to get it this thick. And then once you go in one direction, of course you want to go back and do the opposite direction. Opposite direction. Optimal coverage.